Hey guys, Shinlock's here. So we have to talk about catinfo.org. This is actually a really important website to read if you do have cats or are planning to have cats anytime in the future. Um, the info on this site basically saved my cat's life, and it may save yours, and that's why it's really important we need to talk about it. So, um, those of you that follow me closely um, may or may not know that one of my cats, Manny, was diagnosed with diabetes a few months ago. But before that, I didn't really know a lot about feline diabetes, and I saw the change in his behavior, and I figured he had it, but at the same time, I didn't. I thought it was basically a death sentence. So there was a lot that I didn't know that I was doing incorrectly, and I could have probably fixed the issue, but ended up having to watch him kind of deteriorate and almost die to the point where he was having trouble walking. He would follow me around, like literally wherever I went, he was going there. And then when I would stop moving, he would lay down, not even go into a cat loaf position because he didn't presumably didn't have the energy. He would just lay on his side, and would just follow me around. And at one point, I ended up buying a shovel on the way home from work because I didn't know if he was gonna make it, be alive when I got home. So the most important thing, if you take away anything from this, because this website, despite how simple it is, catinfo.org, and also the feline diabetes message board, there is a ton of info on there, and they're not necessarily well organized. But the big thing is that dry food. I do appreciate the cost savings over canned food, but it is really really terrible for cats. I'm going to try and keep this short because there is too much info on here to fully distill down and hand out. So basically, they refer to cats as obligate carnivores, but no one ever really says what that means. And what it basically means is they require meat. They cannot use plants or plant sources as energy. Humans can. Humans are omnivores. Most other animals are, but cats cannot. And so when you read, even me, like, I've had classes in nutrition and stuff. I just didn't realize that they are wired so fundamentally different than humans are. Because you read the back of the ingredients and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, starches, peas, potatoes, whatever. Okay, that's fine. It's like, oh, corn is bad. Corn is bad, but rice is okay. Potatoes are okay, right? You're looking at the ingredients, but any plant sources are basically filler. Cats cannot use them at all. To the point where, and I may actually be wrong about this, when cats get stressed, their blood sugar rises, whereas ours in humans, our blood sugar decreases when we get stressed because we actually utilize the blood sugars. Cats don't, and that's why when they're stressed, their blood sugar goes up. So yeah, dry food is just freaking terrible. And if you look at the ingredients, they're all plant-based, which is filler. They need meat and fat and a minuscule amount of carbs. I don't even know what it is for, like, in nature. 2% maybe of their calories need to come from carbs. It's whatever, they eat mice and stuff. So whatever's in the digestive tract of the mice that they eat is what they need. And if they do, need to eat that grass or whatever, you'll notice that they usually eat the grass to throw it up later. Like, they're not doing it for, to get their vitamins. Yeah, especially if you are going to dig into the site and read more about it and find out that, as far as the dry food goes, like 90% of it is contaminated with mites and other issues. And cats don't even really drink water. They're apparently in their biology, their thirst drive is different than normal animals, right? So they typically don't drink water. They get it from their food, right? Which is why you switch to a canned food, and then all of a sudden they basically almost completely stop drinking water. Now, the basic, if we're gonna just distill down to a couple bullet points here. One is that dry food is terrible, like really, really terrible. Two is that canned food is almost always better, and um, and that's basically it. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Somewhere on this website, I don't know if this is the one. Nope, this is a good little 4-page summary that I'd probably recommend. And it's this is not just some random person on the internet. This is Lisa Pearson, DMV. She's a veterinarian, but even most vets don't understand nutrition, and she does. She's gone into a lot of the nutrition, and it's not just her with an opinion. She actually typically backs up what she's saying. She explains the reasoning. She's like, this is how the cat's biology works. This is how the nutrition works. All that stuff. If you care. But somewhere on here there is there's a list of all the different cat foods and the, not like ingredients, but it breaks down into like the fats, the proteins, and the carbohydrates as best as we can figure it out, because the cat food, the animal food companies, they're not monitored by the FDA or anything like that. Cats and animals, pets, are basically considered livestock. And so when they make this, there's basically no oversight on animal food whatsoever. The only reason we don't get most of this food from China that we know of, there's ways to adulterate or switch that stuff in. But the reason we don't get most animal foods from China is because there was the Chinese people, or the Chinese manufacturers, started like substituting ingredients that they shouldn't be, and poisoned a lot of animals. And so there was enough animals died that there was enough of a outrage that the U.S. just banned animal food imported from China. Allegedly. If you ship it to Brazil and have it packaged in Brazil, then hey, it's not from China, it's from Brazil, right? It's what they do with honey. Or another country, but Brazil is the biggest offender. Anyway, so yeah, dry cat food is bad. It's mostly filler. Canned cat food is probably the best. I personally, for Manny, I used Fancy Feast, the classic pate. It's also the cheapest one, right? It's the cheapest one, but it's also the lowest in carbs. And I do either I stick to the seafood primarily because Jack doesn't like turkey for whatever reason, and there's like the chicken and beef variety pack, and so about a third of those he won't eat, but he will eat all the seafood stuff. So somewhere on here, if you look, you can find the actual breakdown of nutrients, and you can kind of look at what cat food you're feeding them then. Something also, just real fast, if you are gonna, like, my recommendation would be the Fancy Feast classic pates. That's my recommendation. Literally, when Manny was dying, I pulled all the dry cat food, which was prescription, by the way, which, since there's no oversight, prescription is a completely bullshit label. It literally is prescription because you need a prescription from the veterinarian to get it, but it's literally the same as regular cat food. It's just in a different package. Is it actually formulated for kidneys? No one knows. You just have to trust the manufacturers, bro. They totally have your back. Yeah, I switched over both cats, right, to this food, and it was literally like Manny was coming back to life as soon as he started eating that stuff. It was amazing. So Fancy Feast classic pate, they have my total recommendation going forward unless they change their formula, which Who knows? But on those instructions for the Fancy Feast food, it says 1 can per cat per 3.5 pounds of body weight per day. So Manny's like 10 pounds, so allegedly he'd get 3 cans. Jack is 7 pounds, so he'd get 2. So total, it's about $5 a day for both cats. But when I was doing that, they wouldn't eat all of it. There was a lot of food waste. And actually, I find out that you need not even half of that. They're getting about between them, they're getting about 3 cans per day because Jack will eat a little bit less and Manny will eat a little bit more because he's bigger. And actually the data that I found on this site that breaks down the number of carbs and protein and fats supports that. So that would be my recommendation, is just read. Like I said, it's really not organized well, but it is super important to read. And I think proper nutrition, we don't want to eat stuff with filler in it, right? Definitely don't want to eat or don't want to feed our cats and our animals, our precious loved ones. Don't want to feed them things with filler either. And I really wonder if a lot of these problems that animals have are a result of giving them contaminated food, bad food, fillers, stuff they can't eat or digest. The everything goes, like the food that you eat becomes a part of you. And so if you're giving people or animals nothing but garbage to eat, it affects their health. And especially if it's, maybe they become allergic to stuff, or there's inflammation as a result of these things that they can't process or digest, and so that just inflames their entire gut. And then what? They have lung problems, they have breathing problems as a result of that. Maybe they have heart problems. Diabetes is the big one. Cats everywhere, there's like a rise in diabetes. It's, not a shock if you're giving them a bunch of these plant-based foods, because they can't digest that. It's like you give me a bunch of sugar, but cats are almost already diabetic, right? Because they can't process the sugars in the same way that we can. So that's my recommendation, I guess. If I have, it sounds silly, but that's my recommendation, is if your cat's on a dry food, switch to probably the Fancy Feast Classic Pate, and 2 cans a day per cat ish, and go from there. Just see how they do. And you can, if you need some horror shows, there's this stuff like litter box vaccines, hypothyroidism, feeding tubes, pilling cats and dogs. Like, so Manny, I think part of the reason is he's in remission now, right? So his blood sugars are back to normal. And I think part of that was because we didn't go to insulin. We tried this, it's called Bexacat. It's a pill. It's a glucophage. I think that's the terminology. It just forces your body to pee out the sugar. It's really hard on the kidneys, but it's similar to Ozempic, apparently. But even dry pilling them, which is what my vet told me to did. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. My vet told me to do is to basically open his mouth and shove the pill down there. And I was like, oh, it works. Okay. And it was painless. It was quick. But turns out dry pilling animals, no, we don't like taking pills dry. So no one does. But what happens is these pills, they can get stuck in your esophagus and cause it to erode, and you can get, ulcers or abscesses or horrible, horrible things that can kill them. And so, me personally, I would just rather not have to do that and just feed them properly. Feed them canned food. And honestly, the if cost is an issue, and it can be for some people, then you can also look at it as less expensive health problems down the road. because animals are freaking expensive. I think just a regular checkup for Jack just like a month ago with his senior blood screen, that was like $400. And I'm just like, you know, it's expensive. So anyway, that's we'll end here. That's my recommendation. Read this site, catinfo.org. Check out feline diabetes, the feline diabetes message board as well, and just kind of read up on this stuff. You never really think about it until it affects you, and that's why I'm kind of putting this stuff out now, because I was like, I'm fine. I know I'm in medicine. I understand these things. But I learning so much about this that I hadn't even considered before. And that's why I feel like, I don't want anyone to go through what I went through, and potentially will go through in the future. But fingers crossed, now that we're feeding them the good food. Also, if cost is a thing, there's a recipe for how to make your own cat food and how to do it with proper nutrition. With all the vitamins and stuff that your cat actually needs. That seems a little bit more difficult. You could try giving them some pieces of cooked chicken first, and that's the other thing I'd recommend is cooked chicken, not raw. Even though raw foods, like, it sounds good, it sounds like sexy and natural. Apparently, cats are really susceptible to bird flu. Like, they can die really easily from bird flu. So, my recommendation: don't feed them raw food. Give them cooked. If they eat the chicken, great. If not, don't. Just stick to like a couple cans of Fancy Feast Classic pate per day. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention. Really do appreciate it. Really hope you guys are enjoying any episodes that you watch. Hopefully this does help someone. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. If you want to give it a like or a dislike or whatever, do that. Yeah. That's all. Anyway, guys, I hope to see you guys next time. Till then, guys, take care.